welcome to the webinar today called Sias Update from China. We have a special guest that's going to be here to talk about how Sias University supports new teachers, existing teachers, a few updates about our hiring and openings for this fall, as well as how has COVID-19 impacted our campus, some stories and examples of how a expat lives in China, and then what are some updates going forward for COVID-19 regulations for visas and travel, and what the timeline looks like for new teachers. I just spoke a couple days ago with the founder of the university, Sean Chen, and he's also letting us know that he has teaching opportunities at his K-12 schools. So in addition to our 49 openings teaching kindergarten, primary school ESL, conversational English at our university, as well as business English teachers, and 1 hour north of our university is Sias International Schools K-12, and they are actively recruiting for new teachers as well, especially those who have a credential. We have Terrance Martowski with us today. Really glad to have Terrance here. And also Alan Swope is with us. Alan's going to be helping us in the chat box and helping kind of organize our Q&A time. Terrance, when I heard that you stepped into the role of this position, I was just thrilled. I was just so encouraged that you are willing to serve our leadership team and the faculty. Just seeing you really put your all into teaching and excellence with creating community among the faculty as well. So I really appreciate all that you've done so far at Sias. So Terrance, would you mind just giving a quick introduction? How long have you been in China at Sias, and what was your role before you stepped into this administrative role?
Well, I've been at Sias since fall of 2018. I came here as an oral English teacher, and then just as things went by, I stepped into a couple different roles. One of them was a kind of a pseudo team leader role where I was helping organize the curriculum. I've also worked as a Culture Week leader, and that's kind of a Greek Rush style international fair that Sias puts on.
Sias is in a college that has centered around the motto of East meets West. So very open when it comes to culture, and they like to give their students a experience of different cultures from around the world. So Culture Week is a time where every day is different, and every day is just kind of exploring different cultures and exploring what makes our world so diverse.
Monday is China Day, Tuesday is Asia Day, and those are the best days of the entire year to buy souvenirs. Wednesday is Latin/Africa Day. Thursday is European Day, and Friday is America/Canada/Australia. All 5 of these days are broken up, the daytime and then the nighttime. Daytime is all around, you have booths, people making crafts.
And it feels like a world fair, and each day is a little bit different. Foreigners also organize a nighttime performance that's about from an hour to an hour and a half, just kind of featuring that culture and dances and skits and contests and activities that center around that culture.
Culture Week is very fun. It's a fantastic time at Sias. We get to share some of our culture with the students and with the Chinese community here, and they get to share, other people get to share their culture with us, and it's really fun. It's a good time to come together and kind of see what the world is like in a week.
And so I was helping to organize the foreigners and participating in that, as well as I became a public speaking teacher in the fall semesters. And then after all that, this position opened up, and I said, why not? So I jumped in, and it's been fun. And Eric Valdoy is still on. He's training me right now. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun, a good experience.
My interaction with Terrance will be We have a group of 4 of us on the hiring committee, so managing the interviews is one person's role. The other is second, third interviews, and then my role is getting people into the queue to apply. But Terrance will be real involved with just final decisions and just helping keep everything moving with the visa process and deadlines for applying, etc. Well, one of the first things I think it's really helpful for everyone who's considering moving to China for the first time is what makes Sias University special. I think is our leadership team of expats, and then also the vision of the founder, and that really makes our university stand out. Terrance, could you explain a little bit about the leadership structure? Who will you be supporting and leading administratively?
Just like Aaron said, it kind of sets Sias apart. And while a lot of times if you go work for a Chinese university, it's just you and maybe 2 other expats who are working there. And so a lot of the just kind of cross-cultural work is done by you, and you have to learn like sink or swim. And here there's a lot of structure and a lot of help with that. So first is the OIA office, and I work with them. So there's Brendan, he's from South Africa. He's very helpful, doing a lot of the programs and setting up even like Chinese classes or culture trips or things for the foreigners, and helping as well. There's Xiaoying, and Xiaoying is often working with pay and reimbursements. So if you have a question about your paycheck, you don't have to know Chinese. There's April, and she's also very helpful. She helps with visa issues. So that's a support in like getting here, that there's a lot of structure there. With the Sias leadership team, when it comes to teaching,
I'll go ahead and show some of the pictures.
Okay.
So this was Eric.
Yeah. When it comes to teaching, there is even more support. So as you are a teacher, you'll have a team leader above you. So whether you're teaching oral English for sophomore or freshman students, you'll have someone who's helping you organize and prepare your curriculum. And then above them, you're going to have someone who's the academic coordinator. So it has been Claudia in the past, and Annika is taking over that role right now. And so they'll oversee and communicate with Chinese staff. So in a lot of ways, Sias is a soft landing where I feel like a lot of places, if you just come to China to teach, you might land yourself on the spot and you might be like, I need to know Chinese yesterday. I need to be able to figure all these things out last week. And I have no idea like how to take care of these things. And Sias, there's so many things that are provided for us so that you can learn and grow and just interact with Chinese culture at a pace that's going to be a little less stressed and a little more comfortable as you're supported when you come here.
I remember when you first came to Sias, you told me about the process of applying and then choosing which opportunity to teach at. Could you speak a little bit about like that process, like as you and your wife are thinking about like where are we going to go, and why did you choose Sias?
Yeah, I'll start off by saying at the time, Elizabeth, my wife, current wife, was my fiance at the time, and she and I were talking about what we're going to do. And I had just graduated college. I was working in fast food and just kind of, what am I going to do? And I wanted to go into teaching. So I found a teaching opportunity on Craigslist, actually, and I sent it to her, and I was like, hey, this is a teaching opportunity in China. And I was like, what do you guys think? Like, what do you think? And we just kind of laughed at it. And then she was like, well, why not? Why not try to go to China? And so that kind of became our, I don't know, mantra or motto, where we were just like, why not? What if we went to China? How would our lives look? And so we started looking. And I'm sure those of you who have applied to Sias, I'm sure you've probably looked at other universities, and maybe you have had different experiences with the hiring process from other universities in China. But for us, a lot of the process that I got was just very much kind of you do it yourself. And I would message someone, and there wouldn't be a full-time recruiter. It would be someone who's also managing the school. And they sent me a 10-page PDF, and they said, read this, ask me if you have questions. And it was just kind of left. And for Sias, it was a very marked difference that there was a recruiting department, there was a process, there was things set up so that other schools I had interviews with, but with Sias, there was like a plan. You're going to have these interviews, you're going to go through this process, we're going to answer your questions at this stage. And they kept following up. Aaron was the person who recruited me. So I had a great experience with the recruitment, and that made me feel really comfortable with coming to Sias, because I felt like if they put that much care into recruitment and the process and put enough thought into that, then they weren't going to be dropping the ball in other areas. And we haven't regretted it. Like, it's been a great experience for us here.
My plan was to fly back with my wife and 4 kids January, February of 2020, and everything, was shut down shortly after for travel. So China has been considered more of a closed country for travel, even for work visas. Could you give an update for us who haven't been on campus the last 2 years? What has it been like?
That's a big question.
It's a big question. You could just talk mostly about like the flow, the in and out of your community of expat teachers initially, and then when did students get back on campus? And then when did it feel like it was more normal for you guys?
Yeah, it's been a little touch and go. So obviously, when COVID-19 hit, if I think back, there were some people who went home for winter break, and they were like, goodbye, we'll see you in a month. And then COVID-19 happened, and we did. And then there were some people, when COVID-19 broke out, they were like, okay, we want to go back to America. And they went back to America. And many of those teachers didn't make it back. So our faculty shrunk on one level. And then things were locked down for a couple months, like up until that summer. And it was, since then, it's been kind of uneven with like whatever the pandemic is going on in America. It would seem like there's a wave going on in America, but we would have a lot of freedom, and COVID-19 was quieted down. So we'd be going out shopping, do whatever we need to do. And, you might be wearing a mask, or maybe you wouldn't be, because it just kind of relaxed to that point. And so it's been on and off. In general, when the wintertime comes, there's a lot more care than in the summer. And to be completely honest, like, I know in 2020, the spring semester, we had all classes online. And I think they may have come back for like the last couple of weeks to do a graduation. And then the fall semester, there was a little bit online. And the next spring semester, there was a little bit online and not. And so it's gone back and forth, and I can't quite keep a track on my head.
Yeah. I heard from Eric.
It's really hard to remember semester by semester. But to say that we've had stricter lockdowns than I think a lot of places in America, but then we've reaped some benefits from that, in that we've had periods of freedom where we can do a lot, and there's a lot less concern about COVID here.
Mm-hmm. When I was speaking to Eric about a month ago, he said there was about 5 different times in which there was a lockdown. and that goes in line with China's zero tolerance policy for COVID. I think the most recent one, there was a case a mile or two away from the university at a different university. And so Sias just locked down. What is that like when things lock down at Sias?
Um,
What does
I
that
was
mean?
I was really grateful in those because I know there was a lot of the Chinese people, the doors to their apartment building just close, and that's kind of it. They're in their apartment building. They can send out one family member every other day. Because we were on a college campus, we had the privilege of being able to leave the building. We weren't allowed to get together in groups of more than 5 people, but we could kind of walk around campus and it was pretty much empty. Like there's no one here, the students aren't here. We wouldn't be able to really leave campus at different times during the lockdown. If it was really strict, you couldn't leave campus. So then the front desk would arrange an order from our local supermarket and we could purchase whatever food we wanted to, and they would deliver it and help us carry it back to the apartment building. So it was nice. We'd send an Excel document of the food we want to buy, and we'd be able to get that. And we didn't have a lot of concerns on that front. We always had what we needed. But yeah, you weren't able to get together in groups of larger than 5, and everyone's wearing a mask all the time. But the real blessing about our situation is that we could walk around, I don't know how many acres of land here at Sias, but we could walk around quite a bit. Whereas I know there's some people who didn't get that opportunity.
The last I heard a month ago, there has not been one COVID case on campus. Is that still true?
Yeah, I haven't heard of a single COVID case. I think the college next to us, there was a rumor they had one, but there was no that proved to be false. There's hasn't been a COVID case really in our area. That's like maybe 40 minutes away there was a COVID case. Yeah, it's been really quiet. And we haven't had a lockdown strict like that in maybe over a year. Can't think of a time where we've been locked down that strictly in a long time.
The trust in the government from the Chinese people is at our all-time high. It's at 91% on the Edelman trust barometer. So let me share that graphic for y'all. Now that doesn't really speak to the trust coming from expats in country. That's just from like the average Chinese national, and who knows how accurate that is. But from your perspective, does it feel safe? Do you feel like it's working for you as an expat, the zero tolerance policy, or does it feel like your freedoms are, taken away and you'd rather have a different system?
I feel like that question's a little nuanced, and I'll try to explain it as best as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I moved to China, I kind of lowered my expectations for what kind of privileges or freedoms that I would have, because I was like, I'm a guest in another country, right? So I need to be ready for things not to go the way that I expect. As a whole, I mean, you can't do a lot of traveling unless you're willing to do a lot of like different tests and whatnot. Sometimes, like we'll have to check with the office here, and we'll say, hey, what's safe? But when it comes to like safety, I would say there's more danger in getting locked down somewhere and having to stay there for weeks and months. And there's almost zero danger of getting COVID. There's a lot of protections in place. So I think there's a trade-off, but I don't think it's a bad trade-off. I'm happy to be here. I really like the situation that we have. Do I wish I could travel more? Yes. I wish I could travel more. I wish I was a little more brave to go traveling and not so concerned about getting locked down in the city. But I'm not looking for a different system or like I need to get out of here. Like it's actually been really good for us. We have what we need, and we have the freedom to travel as long as we're checking up. And we're hoping that those times will coincide with our vacation, but things are going very well.
Good to hear. Yeah. I had some friends in Xi'an, and I heard there was an outbreak in Xi'an. Maybe, I think there was like 200 cases. And so a city of 30 million was shut down for 10 days. And I think that's kind of what you're referencing, is there's more danger in like running out of food or something, because they wouldn't let, how do you deliver food to 30 million people in lockdown without spreading COVID? So so that was scary for my friend he's a Chinese national in Xi'an. But it sounds like it hasn't been intense like that. Like, you guys have systems for food delivery, and like, would you have even restaurants be able to deliver to you, or was it just like the grocery store?
Yeah, like, I guess it depends on how strict it is. But there have been times where we're kind of like a soft lockdown where restaurants can deliver to us and stuff. It's been, I mean, we haven't had a hard lockdown in a long time. Is what I'd say. And I wanted to clarify what I said before about traveling. Like last summer, Elizabeth and I went to Zhengzhou, and we had a wonderful time. And so, like, travel is possible. We were able to travel all the way to the other side of China. But I know a couple of friends who traveled, and then like when they came back, there was like oh, you need to quarantine for a week here. You need to quarantine this. Like, you have to wait. We have to take a couple tests before you can come back. And so it's just a little bit of a hassle. It's kind of the danger. I think the danger of running out of food in a lockdown is pretty low. There's like millions and millions of people here. So they're trying to, they know to find ways to do that. And they're pretty practiced at this point.
How does the government kind of track proximity, COVID, and the use of WeChat and the micro apps within WeChat? How does that all work? And will it be kind of like the new normal going forward, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know how long they'll use it, or if it'll be something that continues. But there's WeChat and Alipay. They're the two main apps that we use. And we'll scan a code, like they'll have a standard QR code. So we scan the QR code, and then it'll come back and it'll show sometimes a QR code, sometimes just a screen, and it'll say like that you're green, yellow, or red. And so they're tracking your phone's movements while you're here, and just making sure if you get on a train or if you get on a plane or some other form of mass transit, or like if they find a COVID case, they'll trace it backwards, and they'll publicize where that person was and let everyone know. It's really interesting when they would publish every single COVID case, and then they would say these are the people like close contact, and then everything when it comes to tracking you is done to one of those programs, either on WeChat or Alipay. And what happens is, if you haven't been in close contact, you're green. If you have been in close contact, you're yellow. And if there's some sort of problem, you're red. I've never seen a yellow QR code in person. So, but I do know that it's very strict. They're very concerned about protecting it. One of the things I'll say that's a detail that you may not hear very often is that China has significantly less doctors than other countries. And I don't really have anything to say about that, good or bad, but that's just the way the structure is here. So a lot of these protections they put in place, if you look at like how many doctors and medical personnel the United States has per 1,000 people, and then you look at how many doctors, medical personnel China has per 1,000 people, it's much, much less. So they're doing what they're like, there's reasons behind what they're doing. is that if you hear of a hospital getting over just really full in America and overrun, if that sort of outbreak happened here, it would probably be much worse. So these practices, I think, can be seen as like really, really strict. But I think in some ways they're being wise about what they're doing.
So we covered kind of the impact of COVID on campus, impact of COVID on travel nationally. And so the next really important topic is, how do you anticipate COVID-19 impacting our new teachers, returning teachers coming to campus? Can you explain the different departments within China that need to give us approval to bring someone to China? That will kind of give, so it's not the school's decision to delay the teacher's return or the new teachers from coming, but it's different departments in China. Can you help kind of explain that process?
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay.
So I'll give you some of the details, and I don't have all the connections mapped out. That's part of why Eric is still on helping me through. And Xiaoying and April, Chinese staff and OIA, they work really closely with this. So they're the experts. But what we do is we collect your information, like your passport information, and then we fill out we give you a recommendation letter, invitation letter, and we send that and an application in to either the Foreign Experts Bureau or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then we get several documents back from them. One of them might be the PU letter, and another document that we submit in order to get a visa. There's several steps that happen on this side. So we need to get approval from the Foreign Expert Bureau, we need to get approval from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we need to get approval from the embassy. And as you apply to come work here, if anything gets held up at one of those offices, then we have to wait. And we have to send another email and ask, hey, did you get our application? Did you give approval for us? Our Chinese staff and our director, Julian, who oversees this whole office, he's been on the phone with each one of those offices. And he's very positive that this year is different. He thinks that we will be able to bring everyone back, and that each one of those offices are going to be very willing to help us get all the documents this year. So yeah, we are hopeful.
Yeah, Julian was mentioning he's kind of in a tough situation. I remember last fall, the priority was to get certain teachers back that were with a partner school. So because of just the contractual agreements that they have for those partner school teachers to be on site for accreditation and things like that, US and Chinese accreditation. So my understanding is that a few of them of our Sias and partner school teachers were able to come back, but not nearly the amount that we wanted. We wanted, say, maybe like 40 or 50, but we only got half a dozen or something. Is that how you see it?
How I see this year, or
how you see the past year and a half, where some teachers were able to come back, which kind of makes us feel like, oh, it's not a completely closed country. It's like just very limited in how many we can get invitation letters for.
Yeah. For those of you who are watching, China's way of doing things is very different from the West. And I would say it's not good or bad, it's different. And one of the things is, like, in the West, like, we might just say, this is not happening. Like, no way, this is illegal. And then the government would just not allow it. But China, if they want to move in a certain direction, they'll just make things a little more difficult. And it's still possible, it's still legal, but it's just a little more difficult, a little more difficult. And just kind of, they don't care about whether everything is necessarily like the same across the board. They're just influencing what's happening. So when it comes to bringing foreigners over, they've made it a little more difficult, but it's not impossible. And so we've been able to apply to have many people come, and then we'll get like a trickle, and we'll apply and we'll get a trickle through. And so that's kind of the thing is like, it's possible, and we know it's possible. We don't know when the attitude of the offices and everything is going to open up where they're like, okay, everyone can come. And so in some ways it's a waiting game. And there's a lot of reasons why we think this year is the year that people will apply and will be able to get all their documents.
Well, now is a good chance for everyone to ask questions in the Q&A. We're gonna wrap up as soon as we answer a few questions. Question that I feel like a lot of people are having is kind of what's the timeline look like. So I'll cover that. Every year we take applications year round for new teachers. Normally we want to wrap up our interviews in May, and so we will begin interviews in January. We actually delayed our interviews until the beginning of March, end of February this year, as we're waiting for what is the policy going to be. And so right now, the Sias University policy is we are only going to hire teachers if they are willing to come to China. We're not going to hire online-only teachers. And we should know by the time it's ready to process visas, which is in June. So oftentimes we're beginning this 2-month process of processing paperwork and getting an airplane ticket for people to fly out in June, July. If someone is a recent college graduate and they are not an English major, TESOL major, or education major, they are required to also get a TEFL certificate, which is 120 hours. So that might take a few weeks to finish if you do it 100% focus. So we usually have that deadline around June 15th to have that completed. And then we're in the process of collecting your other paperwork, your authenticated diploma and your clean bill of health document from the doctor, 2 recommendation letters. We're getting your English resume simplified into 1 page and then translated into Mandarin for the offices to look at all your paperwork. Once we get all that paperwork done, it goes for approval, and then you get the invitation letter. And once you get that invitation letter, we'll say, okay, you're going to leave in a week or 10 days from this international airport. At that point, we want to take over, Terrance. What do these new teachers have to do?
When it comes to, after you get your flight, first of all, I'll say getting your flight is a little more difficult than just buying any ticket, because it has to be like a nonstop in some way. So you have to come directly from the US to China. And for any flights that stop somewhere, it has to be the same flight number. It's interesting. Or you can have a stop in Korea for a short time, but it has to be so short that it's the same flight number that continues on to China. So we'll book one of very specific flights to get you in. And then 7 days before you get on your flight, you have to have a PCR test. And then I think it's 24 to 48 hours before you get on the flight, you have to have 2 other COVID tests. And then at that point, you will apply for a green code from the embassy, like that is watching over the jurisdiction that you'll fly into. So if you're going to Shanghai, you'll apply for a green code specifically from Shanghai. And then you'll get on the plane and you'll come over. There's a couple of different types of quarantine when you arrive. So you'll arrive in one of the port cities like Beijing, Guangzhou, Shanghai. And when you arrive, you'll go into a 2-week quarantine. And so that your hotel, your food, everything is covered by Sias, or it's reimbursed by Sias. And then after those 2 weeks, we'll help you and we'll make sure you're able to get a flight from that port city to Zhengzhou. And then Zhengzhou is like 40 minutes north of us. And we'll bring you here. So then you have another quarantine, a week here in this area. And then after that, you'll have, that's a 1 week quarantine. And then you'll have another 1 week quarantine. That's a little more, call it like a soft quarantine. So in that soft quarantine, you'll be able to go outside, you'll hang out and speak to people from a distance, but you won't be able to go into class, or you won't be able to join like big meetings of people. And then after that, after those collective 4 weeks, you'll be able to do whatever. And then throughout those quarantines, there's several different COVID tests. And I don't have the details on every COVID test you'll take while you're in quarantine, and I'm sure it would change. It might change a little bit by the time you get here. Can you think of anything else that's be helpful, Aaron?
Yeah, I think some people might ask, it's good for us to cover all these questions so that in the interview, the interviewers don't have to answer all these questions. We got this video that covers the common questions. Will our new teachers be required to be vaccinated, and if so, what type?
I haven't heard of any requirements when it comes to being vaccinated to work at CS. And as far as I know, we have people here working right now who aren't. I know if you are vaccinated, sometimes coming to China is easier, but it may be, I don't have definite information on that, or like which vaccine China recognizes that will reduce your quarantine time coming back.
Well, I heard that the Chinese medical doctor, who's kind of like the spokesperson, like Anthony Fauci, but for China, he said that their goal is for 80% vaccination countrywide before they open up the whole country to tourism, etc. So yeah, it's good that they give us as expats, it sounds like, the choice and not require it.
Yeah, they encourage it, but I haven't heard anything about it being mandated or required.
Okay. We're going to interview next month one of our, maybe even two of our teachers. Karen is traveling back from Indiana with her husband, and she's offered to do a webinar during her quarantine. So we'll get into more details of what it's like to go through quarantine, and whether you are willing to go through that yourself. It's good to know as you sign a contract. This is me signing my 2 weeks away as well. So I really, hats off to all the teachers who have gone through quarantine and have been through just extra efforts that are required to go to China. So it just really, it shows the heart of our teachers that they're persistent, and they love this opportunity so much that they're coming through those hurdles to go through or go over. Couple questions in our Q&A. One is from Giovanni. She says, are we taking teachers from English-speaking Caribbean islands? And I heard about 8 months ago, we were considering, we might have done an offer to someone who's from the Caribbean, and it's now considered one of the native English-speaking countries from the Chinese Bureau. But things change, so every year we have to go back and ask and double check who's on the country list for considering native English or not. Another question from Faith and Bill, professors from Georgia. They say last summer they went through all the approvals and invitation letters, etc. But the visa didn't come. Can we use the same approvals and letters from last year, or do we need to start over? So,
I'm not sure. Each document may be a little different. If you have your authenticated documents, like specifically like your diploma, you won't need to get that re-authenticated. I would need to check about your police report. When it comes to things like PU letters or things from the ministry, from the different Chinese offices, I think we would have to apply for those again. But Xiaoying would know more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Christiana, she's just asking if she's able to meet with some teachers, I guess in the LA, I think she's in LA, before going to Sias. I think that's a great idea. I'm actually, Christiana, I'm hoping to go to LA in the next month or 6 weeks. And what I'll do is I'll gather all the current teachers, former teachers, applicants together, and we'll go get we'll look for some Chinese hui mian, some Chinese noodles. I heard a rumor that there's a store or a restaurant in LA that serves Chinese noodles, and I really want to go there. So I'd love to treat you to some Chinese noodles and talk China. We'll keep in touch on that. Dustin is asking, how does Xinzheng compare to the capital of Zhengzhou? So you want to answer that one?
Yeah. So Xinzheng it's definitely smaller, and there's a lot less here. But I would say you're able to get everything that you need here. There's some things that you may not be able to get. So specifically, like dairy products, if you're looking for mozzarella, or if you're looking for Parmesan, you're not going to be able to get that in your regular supermarket. So you can buy a lot of things. I think Alan answered, you can buy things through Taobao, and Taobao is like Amazon for China, but it's so big and there's so much. You can get almost anything you need on Taobao, and things here are changing. So they do have now they have like sliced American cheese in the supermarket. They do have, we used to only be able to get UHT milk, like shelf stable milk, in the supermarket. And now you can get a carton of milk that's refrigerated and a little more fresh. So even since I've been here in the last 2 years, I've seen things change quite a bit. You can get sausage and bacon in the supermarket now, like American tasting, that you couldn't be able to get before.
Can you tell about the new McDonald's and Starbucks on campus?
Oh yes. So yeah, if you're thinking of restaurants, there's a new McDonald's and Starbucks, and there is they are like, I don't know, a 2-minute walk from Peter Hall. Like you can look outside the apartment building and basically it's one building away. It's really great, and they were open even when the students were gone recently, over the winter break. McDonald's was. There's a KFC also in Xinzheng town too. Yeah.
My go-to has always been getting a mocha from Bridge Cafe, which is just like in our lobby. So I mean, it's hard to be more spoiled compared to how Sias was 20 years ago, or 3 years ago when it first started. So we have a lot of choices now. Alan is saying that there's a guy on campus who sells Western foods. One Chinese lady brings farm fresh eggs, which are better than the store-bought ones as well. One thing that my wife and I did, we did a 10-day vegan diet, and it required a lot of vegetables and a lot of juicing. And so we worked a deal with a local grocer to deliver to our door. And that was just you just send them a message, okay, here's our list. And then 30 minutes later, they show up with 3 boxes of vegetables. And so I kind of miss that type of delivery, door-to-door delivery.
There's even the large supermarket that we have. If you do an order, I think it's above $12 US, they will deliver it for free, and it comes within the hour. So there's so much variety, so many things. If you need it, you can just get it. It's pretty easy.
Well, it looks like we answered all of the questions on the Q&A. Giovanni, I'll reach out to you a little bit more about your qualifications, and just to encourage you, I think you're definitely qualified, at least on paper. Alan is also mentioning that there's a large food court in place called the Castle with a lot of Chinese dishes, and that's something that I really miss as a family, just being able to like walk out my door with my family and just like go eat at a food court and have a lot of great variety that our kids love. And so I definitely miss that. It's a lot more expensive in the States to eat Chinese food, so I'm learning to make my own Chinese food now. But there, like, what's the cost of eating out now for like an average meal in a cafeteria, student cafeteria, in US dollars?
In US dollars, it could be probably between $1.50 to I don't know, maybe $3, maybe $4. But it depends. Like there's a lot of variety. There's some meals that you can get here for like 70 cents. But I'd say the average is probably around $2.
And then Ben's asking about international fellowship. How does that work if you come from a faith background? Do you have to go all the way to Zhengzhou, or is there something closer?
Yeah, there has been a fellowship here, traditionally in Peter Hall, and at this point, there's not a lot of people. So as people are leaving for the summer, there's some changes, but there's definitely a faith community here, and they will be doing something. So I know some people have connected with the fellowship up in Zhengzhou, but traditionally in the past, there's been a service here on Sunday mornings.
From what I remember, the Zhengzhou fellowship met like monthly. And so even some of the international students in Zhengzhou would come all the way down to us. They might be from Africa or something like that, and they just want fellowship. And so we had Indonesian students that were Christians and African students joining our teacher fellowship on campus. So it's been fun to have a multicultural fellowship nearby. Our time is up. Terrance, I thank you so much. It's going to be a really busy season for you coming up, and I'm glad I got you on the calendar before that hit. If people have more questions for Terrance, you're welcome to email me, and I am happy to get the answers from Terrance and his team. And but I really appreciate that, Terrance, that you took time out to talk to us all and to answer questions. And hopefully we'll get to do this again monthly with another teacher from Sias or another administrator or a teacher trainer. So yeah, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for coming. All right, take care.
Take care.
Thanks, Terrance. Thanks, Alan, for helping.